What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners. This is episode 57, and this is going to be our NXT Takeover Toronto review. So we do have a special guest host with us, and we've got David Anderson on the line. Welcome, David. Thanks for coming on the podcast again. I'm sure, just as I am, you're looking forward to covering an excellent show from NXT last night.
Oh, yes, can't wait. I hope that everybody's enjoying the Sunday, yourself included.
Yeah, most definitely. Before we get chatting about NXT Takeover Toronto from last evening, just a few plugs to throw out there so you know where to find us on social media. As always, we're on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @withjohners_pod. You can find us on Instagram, instagram.com/wrestlingwithjohners. And of course, go out and join our Facebook group. Go onto Facebook and search Wrestling with Johners, and that's spelled JOHNERS, Wrestling with Johners. Of course, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share, and shout about the Wrestling with Johners podcast. This is the only podcast, in my opinion, for all of your weekly NXT, NXT UK, occasional WWE, AEW, and kind of all-round wrestling goodness. So please spread the word, tell your friends and tell your family, and help to grow this podcast so that we can continue producing quality content for you each and every week. Right, David, going into TakeOver, what were your initial thoughts? Kind of, where was your kind of hype level ahead of last night's show?
I mean, always, obviously, we know of old that NXT always tends to deliver on these shows, but I think it gets to the point where you think, can they even go higher with these events? I mean, I was hyped for the show as always and looking forward to what they had to offer because they always deliver every single time out. I mean, we're on like the 26th event or something like that now.
Yeah.
And but I really felt like, can they really go any higher? And I'm sure as we'll get into, they certainly exceeded expectations once again. It's crazy the level of performance that they can give and just seem to top it every single time out.
Yeah, the consistency of these NXT takeovers, as with the weekly NXT show, has been absolutely phenomenal. Now, one thing I want to talk to you a little bit later on in the podcast is the almost certainty that it looks like it's going to be moving to FS1 in October to combat the AEW's Wednesday Night Dynamite. But we're going to touch on that a little bit later on so that we can kind of see off the back of TakeOver how it might change the product of NXT later on in the year. I just want to kind of touch on some shows that are coming up soon here on the Wrestling with Johners podcast, our schedule as it stands at the minute. So, of course, we've got SummerSlam this evening. So as me and David are talking about TakeOver from last night, we're only a few hours from the SummerSlam hitting our screens on the WWE Network. And I'll be covering SummerSlam with Heather and Chris, otherwise known as Half Decent, and we'll be covering that on our Tuesday show, which will be a special SummerSlam review show. Skipping forward to the end of the month, on Friday the 30th of August, I'll be joined by Kieran Reid, where we'll be doing our usual weekly NXT and NXT UK recap show, but it'll be a special NXT UK Takeover Cardiff Go Home show, a special preview show ahead of NXT Takeover Cardiff, which is taking place on the 31st in Cardiff, and both myself and David will be in Cardiff for that very special event on Sunday the 1st of September. Yay! On Sunday the 1st of September, I'm hoping to have David along with me again to cover all the special events from Cardiff from the night before. And then on Monday the 2nd, I'll be joined by Ash Crawford and Chris Thornton. They joined me on AEW's Double or Nothing episode, you may remember, and they'll be joining me for the next pay-per-view from All Elite Wrestling, All Out. Did I also mention, David, that we're selling T-shirts now? We are, just like AEW was at the beginning of the year, we're a T-shirt company now. You can buy all of our T-shirts at teespring.com. The full address is teespring.com/stores/Wrestling with Johners. And if you purchase anything from Teespring between now and the end of August, you can get 10% off your purchase. David, so let's have a look at TakeOver Toronto from last night. The first match to kick us off was for the NXT Tag Team Championships, and it was between two of our favourite tag teams, the Street Profits and the Undisputed Era. So I'll go through some of the key spots and we'll discuss it in a bit more detail, but both teams make plenty of quick tags as the match begins, with the Undisputed Era soon getting the upper hand, with Fish and O'Reilly beating down on the bigger Angelo Dawkins. Ford eventually gets to tag in and drops Fish to the canvas with a leaping clothesline, getting a 2 count after a standing moonsault. A pretty impressive move there from Montez Ford. Ford then sets up for the Rock's people's elbow before being caught by Kyle O'Reilly as he hits the ropes, only to get a 2 count shortly after with another Rock move, the Rock Bottom on Bobby Fish. Montez channeling his inner Rock there in that segment of moves. The Undisputed Era gets a 2 count of their own after a beautiful bit of tandem offense from the two, with a code breaker into a German suplex from Fish and O'Reilly. Fish hits a super exploder onto Ford, followed by a flying knee from the top rope by O'Reilly, with O'Reilly slapping on an Achilles lock. Montez Ford is eventually saved by his partner Dawkins, crashing the party. Dawkins gets the hot tag and is soon joined by Montez Ford with a leaping blockbuster, getting a 2 count for the Profits there. The fans are really into the action here, and the momentum changes once again with Fish and O'Reilly. They both get knocked to the outside, however, and Ford hits a tope over the top rope onto both opponents. Dawkins connects with tandem spears, first to Kyle O'Reilly, then onto Bobby Fish, before Ford hits his trademark frog splash onto Kyle O'Reilly, covers and gets to 1, 2, 3. And after 18 minutes of excellent fast-paced tag team action, the Street Profits retain their NXT Tag Team Championship. So it might be considered a bit of a surprise, because I think a lot of the talk and a lot of the hype going into TakeOver Toronto was that the Undisputed Era were looking to gain all the gold by the end of the night. But this threw a little bit of a spanner in the works there. And a great opener, David. You know that when you've got teams of this caliber, the Street Profits and the Undisputed Era in the ring together, you're going to get something special. And I don't think either team have had a bad TakeOver match. So what were your thoughts on this opener?
I definitely really enjoyed it. It was a very good match. Unfortunately, the Undisputed Era set such a high standard that unless you get like a match that you did with, say, like Mustache Mountain or somebody like that, then you're always going to feel a little disappointed. But I thought it was a really good match. You know, the Street Profits, you look at Montez particularly, and you see like a mega superstar possible breakout. And it's no disrespect to Angelo Dawkins, who's a very solid wrestler, and I think he's got an amateur background as well. But you kind of, you look at Montez and he just makes everything look so easy, as you alluded to about the dive to the floor and everything. He's just so fluid, and my girlfriend actually describes it that he has like a rubber man kind of look about him, and he's just so exciting, and he's just so progressive as well that you could see him as a breakout star. But the match was really good. I thought you expected the bad guys as the Undisputed Era. It was a little disappointing, obviously, in the result that they didn't win, because that set up a kind of for the rest of the night. You realise they're not going to be able to do the full swoop and get all of the championships and whatnot. But it didn't take. I thought there was a really cool spot which I can't remember seeing in a match for a long time, when Angelo Dawkins got a tag and he literally threw Bobby Fish across the ring into Kyle O'Reilly, or vice versa. And I can't remember the last time. I mean, I'd really have to rack my brains and go back and think of a time that's happened. I thought that was a really, it was a simple spot, but it was a really impressive, feat of strength. And I don't know if it was just the selling, on the part of the Undisputed Era as well, for taking the move and getting up there for it. But Angelo Dawkins, he's the kind of the go-between, and everybody looks at like Montez is the star, but he does his part, and I felt like when the Profits went to Raw and they're doing all of these backstage bits, it kind of took away and made the characters a little bit more irritating. But then you get back to a takeover and all is forgiven. It was a really good match and a really good way to open the show, I thought.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why we might have expected the title to change hands before the match started, because we have seen a lot of the Profits on Raw in backstage segments. So we probably thought that might be their kind of permanent place of home. But it doesn't appear that way. So I think the Street Profits make a very, very good tandem, excellent tag team champions. I think they're very, very popular with the NXT fans. Just trying to figure out in my own head who might be kind of potential opponents down the line. I mean, you've obviously got other heel teams like the Forgotten Sons possibly, but yeah, I mean, there's a chance also that their feud with the Undisputed Era continues on to the next takeover, which I believe is War Games, but we will have to see. But a good result, an excellent match, and let's have a look at the second match of the night, which was the first of two women's matches in a takeover, which I think is the first time it's happened. They normally have a card of 5 matches on each of the takeovers. Usually one of those is the women's championship match, but this is the first time we've had 2 women's championship match on a takeover. Now, I've seen in some of your Facebook activity that you were kind of a big proponent of this. You're a massive fan of women's wrestling, as a lot of us are. But to have 2 women's matches on the NXT card of 5 is certainly a big deal, isn't it, David?
It is. It's just the way the business is evolving, as I think we spoke about last time. You know, the women are no longer taking a back seat in their throwaway matches. They're just as important part of the card, and some people, you know, are buying tickets specifically to see those type of matchups. And I thought this was another excellent example of that. It's nice to see how, you know, women's wrestling is starting to get some respect, some traction after, you know, your WrestleManias and what have you. And, you know, there's certainly competent workers all over the NXT brand. So, yeah, I was really excited for this match. And I was a little bit concerned, to be honest with you, because Io hasn't been quite on a stardom level form. from our Japanese days, if anybody's, you know, been lucky enough to see some of our stardom matches. But, you know, a lot of people were saying that, I mean, I saw a few comments about Candice maybe not, you know, not living up to expectations. But for anybody who's seen her on the indies, particularly like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, you know, she's more than capable of a very exciting wrestler. So I thought it could have went one or two ways this match, and it could have been a bit scrappy and kind of disjointed. But thankfully, we got an excellent match, which was very exciting.
Yeah, totally agree. So before this match began, we got an excellent video package giving us a full update on what led us to this match between these two, showing us the heel turn from Io on her former friend and now bitter enemy Candice LeRae. Io comes down to the ring with her updated music, her updated look, red highlights to her hair. So a complete image change as well as a change of character here for Io Shirai since her heel change, of course. This is Candice LeRae's, but believe it or not, this is Candice LeRae's takeover wrestling debut. Now, we've seen her on a lot of NXT takeovers. Usually by the side of Johnny Gargano coming out after matches, but it's a takeover debut, which is even more kind of stunning to say, considering that she's probably wrestled on, I believe, at least one WWE pay-per-view this year. She was on the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, the Women's Rumble, if I'm not mistaken. But she wastes no time here, going right after Io Shirai before the bell even sounds. And when the bell does sound, the action continued at a frantic pace, with Io suplexing LeRae onto the announcer's table at ringside. And this is all within less than 60 seconds of the beginning of the match. Shirai gets a 2 count from a vicious running air raid crash. Candice recovers and gets a 2 count of her own from a brainbuster. Io attempts a 619 on LeRae, only to be caught in the ropes and dropped with a neck breaker. However, Io does manage to connect on a second attempt at a 619. LeRae connects with a dive through the ropes, turning it into a tornado DDT, then nailing a double foot stomp for a close near fall. The two exchange snap German suplexes before Shirai gets a close near fall from a bridging German. LeRae is able to hit reverse runner for a 2 count and then connects with a swinging net breaker for a second from the second rope, with the story of the match here being LeRae selling her injured neck after the table spot at the beginning of the match. Then, in possibly the move of the match, there's a top rope Spanish fly from Io Shirai for another close near fall. Shirai then executes her trademark moonsault, but LeRae kicks out on 2. Shirai then slaps on a Koji clutch in the centre of the ring and even traps Candice LeRae's right hand. The referee calls for the end of the match, and LeRae passes out for the end of this match. So another really fun match from beginning to end. As you said, this was a really smooth match. It was hard hitting, some great action, some really great selling from Candice LeRae as well, with Shirai cementing her heel character, and a real breakout performance I felt from Candice LeRae. But the victory went to Shirai after 17 minutes, and some might say this was also a breakout performance for Io Shirai. As you rightly mentioned at the very beginning, she's not really shone or reached her full potential in NXT, but I think this match changed that. Like I say, it was a breakup performance for both, in my opinion. What's your thoughts on this match, and kind of what favours it's done for both individuals at the conclusion of this match, David?
Definitely 100% in the case of Io Shirai. You know, she was, as I said, struggling a little bit with babyface character in WWE and NXT, but like now it's like she's completely reborn as this character. The the facials, the mannerisms, the evil streak, even wrestling seems more crisp and just seems more comfortable all round with the character. Even when mentioned on Facebook to somebody, even when she had Candice in a submission hold or rest hold, her facials were fantastic. You know, the expressions, she looked like, you know, maniacal basically. She's really like, seems a lot happier and a lot more comfortable with this heel persona. And Candice is very good at, you know, being a sympathetic, you know, character with her being a smaller wrestler. But it was a great match and a great illustration of both of them, and also a great start for Candice. You know, letting people see what she's all about as a wrestler, and hopefully she'll get more opportunities to show what she's capable of going forward. And Io has made no secret of the fact that she already wants to go right back after that, you know, NXT Women's Championship, whoever's got it, whether that's still Shayna with her stranglehold on the belt or not.
Yeah, definitely. Thoroughly enjoyed this, and like I say, it went 17 minutes. That was, you know, it didn't seem, you know, it seemed to go a lot quicker than 17 minutes, but they definitely capitalised on every single minute, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Then we get a surprise appearance from Matt Riddle with a microphone in hand. He calls out Killian Dane after his attack on last week's NXT, telling him to get his hairy ass out and fight him in the ring. We get an impromptu brawl between these two. Referees come out to break up the brawl, but Riddle wants to continue the fight, dropping Dane with a couple of huge knee strikes on the stage before even more people come out from the back, with Riddle taking out everybody. At one point during this brawl, Riddle is on Killian Dane's back, and after several attempts to knock Riddle off, Dane runs and leaps from the stage, crashing through some tables down below. That was a pretty cool spot, and I don't think anyone expected an impromptu brawl between these two to take place at TakeOver, but a brawl is what they got. What were your thoughts on this segment? Obviously, they've had some pretty decent brawls on NXT TV. This one happened at a TakeOver. It wasn't a match, but it certainly makes you want more from these two, and I can't wait to see a match for real between Matt Riddle and Killian Dane, David.
Definitely, and it shows once again how you can rebuild a character like Killian Dane in no time. You know, he didn't really get much of an opportunity on the main roster, and just in short order, he's got people interested in seeing him, you know, wrestle and seeing him compete against Matt Riddle. I think we're probably obviously looking at some kind of stipulation match with these two, probably on a takeover, like maybe a last man standing or something, you know, some kind of special stipulation. Let's not let Regal maybe do that, because he's gone a bit over the almost some of these stipulations lately, but I'm sure we'll get to that one too. But yeah. He's again, just like an Io, he's completely recreated Killian Dane, isn't he? And you know, I'm sure that'll be a very hard hitting and physical match between Matt Riddle that we can all look forward to.
Definitely. And then we see Austin Theory in the crowd, and it looks as though we've got the very talented 23-year-old current Evolve champion, and he'll be heading to NXT very soon. So both you and I, we saw Austin Theory at Progress in Birmingham in March. I know that ahead of that show, you were keen to kind of get your picture taken with Austin, so you obviously done your research, you know a bit about him. He had a very enjoyable match with Trent Seven that night. But what's your thoughts on Austin Theory? I mean, it's surprising that he's only 23. He's already accomplished quite a bit. I mean, I saw him last April in New Orleans when he wrestled on the Fan Access. And I think the world is his oyster. As I said to you in a Facebook conversation earlier today, he's got the look, he's got the character, he's certainly got the in-ring ability. And I think at the tender age of just 23, I think given a few years, he could reach the very top. What are your thoughts on this individual?
I'll say yes, I'm 100% to everything that you said there, because, you know, again, when you look at a Montez Ford, a Velveteen Dream, you're looking at you know, you always can pick out these stars of the future sometimes. He's got all the tools there, he's got the youth. It's amazing, you know, this lad's on top of Evolve, and he's the WNN champion, and, you know, the sky's the limit for him. He's got the look that WWE craves, but he's got the ability to go along with it, and it's amazing now where you're seeing these wrestlers coming along, whether it's MJF in, you know, AEW, or you know, Austin Theory or Darby Allin or whoever. They're such a young age, and yet you can see that star quality in all of them. And WWE's done well to get a hold of them before anybody else did, you know. And I actually thought that they might have got Darby Allin too, but that's another story for another day. But
yeah.
He is a future superstar along with the Velvet. You can see these people, you can see the nucleus of a headline act, for all of them, and headline feuds in the future. And I can't wait to see it, to be honest.
Definitely, definitely. So no doubt he'll be at NXT tapings fairly soon. We'll get to see him over the next couple of months, no doubt. And then we get match number 3, which is for the NXT North American Championship. Now this is a 3-way match featuring current champion Velveteen Dream versus the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne versus Undisputed Era member Roderick Strong. So to kick things off, we get a rendition of the Mounties theme. Now, in my opinion, one of the best entrance themes of all time, belonging to the Mountie or the Quebecers back in the early 90s. And the Mountie might have been a kind of one of the quote-unquote cartoon gimmicks from the early to mid 1990s, but you couldn't get away. I think that the character was an excellent character, a great heel, but an excellent entrance music. And we got some dancers on stage to celebrate the Toronto Rapids NBA championship win, preceded by the entrance of the North American champion, as I said, the Velveteen Dream, doing what he does best, and that is to put on a show. Pete Dunne comes out last to an excellent ovation from the Toronto fans. To start the match, Velveteen Dream and Pete Dunne work together to clear Strong from the ring. Dream is just able to escape an attempted bitter end from Dunne before Strong pulls Dream crotch first into the ring post and then drops Pete Dunne back first across the ring barrier. The barrier at ringside. Mauro Ranallo reminds us that Dunne and Roderick Strong were briefly tag team partners headed into Takeover New Orleans last April before Strong turned his back on Pete Dunne during that championship match and joined forces with the Undisputed Era at the conclusion of that match. Dream puts on a sharpshooter onto Roderick Strong. However, Dunne brought an end to that move with a drop kick from the top rope to the back of the Velveteen Dream. Dunne delivers a moonsault onto both opponents on the outside, with Pete Dunne on a tear at this point as he German suplexes Strong onto the Velveteen Dream for another 2 count. All 3 men then hit their trademark moves, with Dream hitting his Dream Valley driver, Strong delivering his Olympic slam, and Pete Dunne dropping Strong with an X-Plex as the crowd break out into "This is awesome" chants. In one of the highlights of the match, Pete Dunne has Roderick Strong in a triangle in the corner of the ring. Then we see the Velveteen Dream go up to the opposite corner and executes an incredible flying elbow onto Pete Dunne from corner to corner. So that was a pretty special move, and Dream didn't even struggle on the delivery. Strong then goes on a tear of his own, with running forearms and suplexes before applying a double stronghold on both opponents. Then after finger snapping both the Velveteen Dream and Roderick Strong on the top rope, at the same time, might I add, Dunne then delivers his bitter end finisher, but the referee is late to make the count as he's distracted by the Velveteen Dream. Then Dream is able to stop the referee from counting the 3 after physically getting in the referee's way. Now remember, this is being a 3-way, it's a no DQ match, so the Velveteen Dream cannot be disqualified for his antics. The finishing sequence and the end of this match is just as frantic as the rest of the match, as Dream hits his Dream Valley driver. Strong throws, so I believe he hits his Dream Valley driver on Pete Dunne. Roderick Strong throws Dream out of the ring and nails Dunne with his suplex backbreaker, but then Dream gets back into the ring, throws Roderick Strong out of the ring, covers Pete Dunne and gets a 3 count to retain his championship after an incredible 19 minutes. So David, it just gets better and better for this Takeover Toronto card, and this is match number 3, and this tops the previous 2 matches. This was my favourite match of the night so far. What say you?
It was such a frenetic pace, wasn't it? You talked about how these matches just whiz by, and the whole pay-per-views do. I mean, I'll often finish a pay-per-view with an NXT and feel like I've only been up for like an hour and a half, and I'm buzzing afterwards, which is how I used to feel about the main roster, and that's not just because I was young, but anyway, getting in the match, it's just, we talk about Velveteen Dream and Pete Dunne and everything, but Roderick Strong was the glue that held that all together. I felt like in that entire match, he was quietly like a new school Arn Anderson or somebody like that. He's so technically proficient. He's so solid, and everything he does looks like it hurts. Whether it's a shot with like a forearm or one of his trademark backbreakers or end the heartache and whatnot. But I mean, they all gave fantastic performances, and I think what speaks to NXT as well is they never just go with the type of match you're expecting. We've seen a lot of Roderick Strong, we've seen a lot of Pete Dunne, and to a lesser extent Velveteen Dream and what he's capable of. And he always shows something new in every match, whether he's imitating another wrestler. He shows that he can do, he's a very diverse moveset, and it's evolving all the time. And again, we spoke about, very young wrestlers, and you look at that man and you think, there's another rock for you, Vince. If you mess this up, then you deserve every fan's hate and everybody scorn that, that this man, you look at that man and you say money. But anyway, getting this match, they managed to do every bit of the spots that we expect them to, but with a little twist, like the part where you had Pete Dunne doing his trademark stomp when they're down, but he's doing it on both of them, and then you had Roderick Strong applying the stronghold to both men as well, and it actually, a lot of times when you see this move done, you've seen like Natalia try it on somebody with the sharpshooter, and it doesn't always look very good, but Strong was, again, speaking of how mechanically great he is, he was able to apply that move and, put it into the stronghold properly, and, the fans reacted when he made that adjustment and said, it made it look that much more real. And I think this is what often separates NXT from the main roster is, they go that extra effort. There's all these little nuances and little things that they do, whether it's in the match or just around the match, that makes it that much more special and makes it that much more realistic. And as you said, this was the match of the night so far, and fantastic. And I watched it back again, and there's that spot where Roderick Strong has both of his opponents against the rope, and he's literally running back and forward and just nailing them again and again, and it was fantastic. I was absolutely loving it. But yeah, so Velveteen Dream, he keeps the belt, and poor Pete Dunne had to take the fall, but there was no, no shame in any of it, was there? That was like a fantastic match, and it did no harm to any single one of those wrestlers.
Yeah, absolutely, and thoroughly enjoyed that three-way, and I think a lot of people were not necessarily expecting Pete Dunne to walk away with the belt, but they thought that Roderick Strong might have a chance. He's had a decent run of things recently, but the Velveteen Dream, as you said, he is definitely a superstar for the future and a deserving champion, and it'll be interesting to see who he goes up against at Takeover War Games in October, I think. So that's the next big show from NXT. Now, the next match is for the NXT Women's Championship, Shayna Baszler against Mia Yim. So some might say that this match had a slightly underwhelming build, but you had Mia Yim going after the other members of the Horsewomen to make sure he didn't play any part in this championship match tonight. However, it's great to see NXT really getting behind Mia Yim, who's wrestled for just about every promotion in North America and finally gets a chance to put down the dominant two-time champion Shayna Baszler in this match. And I think she's grown on me more and more as the weeks go on and with a character development on NXT, and she really seems to have kind of become more comfortable on the NXT roster and really seems to have found her place and making her mark on NXT. What were your thoughts going into this match between Shayna and Mia Yim, and what are your thoughts kind of on the individuals, and in particular Mia Yim, who's she's not been with NXT too long. She's been in some fairly good matches, but this is going to be her biggest match to date on NXT. What were your thoughts going into this one?
I think NXT's greatest strength is also its biggest problem sometimes, in that the takeovers are so good and the standards so high that a match like Mia Yim versus Shayna Baszler, which was a good match and would have been a really good match on a main roster pay-per-view, because of the standard of other matches that we'd seen preceding it, that even a good match can seem less. Mia Yim, I really enjoy her work. I've been lucky enough to see her on the indies over here at Southside, and the likes of them. Really nice girl, a really good wrestler. She's got the experience there. I've seen her on the indies against Sarah Del Rey, and she's really got that good style and the technical style. And I really thought this match told a good story about it's usually with a Shayna Baszler match, you usually find it's based around the submissions and can you withstand she was working the arm, but Mia Yim was like battling back and sometimes taking a few shortcuts, which the commentary team alluded to, and I don't know if that was alluding to that like street style and what have you, but I think the problem with Mia is she went from just a face in the pack and somebody in the locker room when Shayna's dominating everybody and intimidating everybody, to suddenly we've got to believe she's a challenger. And I don't think a lot of people thought she was quite ready for that. Maybe if she'd been able to get some kind of count out a DQ win before then over Shayna, and maybe she can do this. And she's, you know, as I said, she's mechanically there. The character's developing. A lot of people like, some people like her, some people don't naturally. But I thought the match told a good story, and it seemed like she had Shayna in trouble, and she might be able to overcome the odds. And I love the finish. You know, she survived the Karafuda clutch, or however you pronounce it, and and Shayna had to basically adapt and use another submission to manage to hold. And she really looked in peril, and that's. I think Shayna's often underestimated. Yes, she hasn't got the most flashy style. She uses a submission style, but that's a wheelhouse. That's what she's used to, and to do anything like flashy, and that would kind of take away from that character, I think. But she always looks in jeopardy, whether it's against the Ember Moon or whoever, So and just to being able to survive by the skin of your teeth makes people want to come back and watch another takeover to see if somebody else can just get it done. And it's almost like a Brock Lesnar, where you've got people want to pay to see him get beat because they hate him so much and they hate his character so much, and he thrives off that, as does Shayna. But I thought it was a really good match, and I loved the finish. And unfortunately, it was just simply the standard of the other matches was so high that it just seemed a little bit of a come down. But still a very good match, and again didn't do either. I think that's the strength, as I was going to say in the last match of NXT, is that sometimes the characters are so good and so over, and you've got these. I mean, in the freeway we were talking about just before, you've got these characters that are so well developed. Again, unlike the main roster, sometimes that you don't want to see anybody lose, and you back everybody. But yeah, so. Just to wrap it up and save me rambling any further, I thought it was a really good match, and hope to see that may I get some more opportunities in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree any more. And say the match did end with Shayna winning via submission. Now, she went to put on her trademark Karafuda clutch, but because she was suffering from an arm injury from earlier on in the match, she had to transition into a triangle using her legs instead of her arms to eventually get the tap-out victory over Mia Yim there. But as you mentioned, it was a slower-paced match. It wasn't as frantic as the previous three matches, or certainly not as frantic as the three-way beforehand for the North American Championship. And it told a different story. It told a story of kind of both of them working over body parts, trying different submissions. There were some high spots in there, but like I say, it told more of you could say it told more of a story than the other matches because of the injuries and because of the selling, and it relied less on the high spots and more on the body parts and the submission. So I thought that it was equally as good as any of the previous matches because it was a different type of match. No, it wasn't any worse because it wasn't that 900-mile-an-hour frantic pace that we'd seen previously. But I thought the storytelling and the selling of the injuries were absolutely top-notch in this match, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I think one spot in particular that I absolutely loved was when Mia Yim did the Avalanche Code Blue on Shayna Baszler from the top rope, and that was a phenomenal move. And like I say, in the previous women's match, we saw an excellent Spanish fly from Io Shirai. So these women are, not afraid to pull out some stunning high-flying moves from the top rope, and the Avalanche Code Blue was definitely a move that I remember, and absolutely fantastic. But let's talk about the main event then, David. So this was a 2 out of 3 fall stipulation match for the NXT Championship, and obviously you got former champion Johnny Gargano, Johnny Takeover versus Adam Cole, the current champion. Now, Cole lost to Gargano in their first 2 out of 3 falls match over WrestleMania weekend at Takeover New York, and then at the previous Takeover 25, which was just a 1 fall match, Adam Cole won the match and became the new champion. So when we first heard that it was a 2 out of 3 falls match, we thought, we've seen one of those before. And then a day or two later, we heard that it was going to be a stipulation match where each wrestler got to choose their own stipulation. I think it was probably 2 NXT episodes ago. Both Cole and Gargano chose their stipulations, with Gargano choosing a street fight, which was a match that he and Tommaso Ciampa had many of during their big feud throughout 2018, and Adam Cole chose a classic wrestling match because that was what he kind of capitalized on. That's how he managed to win his falls and kind of get the upper hand in his matches against Johnny Gargano from earlier on in the year. And of course, if it was to go to a third fall, there was kind of this big secret that William Regal would be choosing the third fall, the stipulation of the third fall. Well, it was announced, I believe, on the kickoff, and again just before this match by Beth Phoenix, that the third fall chosen by William Regal would be a cage match filled with various weapons. So that sounds quite exciting and different, and certainly a very physical and violent way to end the match. Now, obviously, we're both big fans of Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole's NXT Championship reign to date, David, has been absolutely fantastic, although it's been a short reign so far. What was your kind of impression going into this match, and kind of what was you looking forward to in particular? It's quite a unique concept, having a 2 out of 3 falls match to begin with, but then to have separate stipulations for each of the falls kind of adds that extra element of excitement and danger. So what were your thoughts, David, before this match started?
Well, firstly, and I'm sure you'll 100% agree, I thought that the way that they handled the announcement of the third stipulation in the weapons cage match was fantastic. You know, it was like people that weren't even watching the pay-per-view or maybe undecided, a special event because it wasn't actually a pay-per-view. But, you know, if you were undecided and you were watching that pre-show and you saw Regal come up, that actually took my hype level from, you know, a bit high enough to absolutely in the stratosphere. It was like, I was a kid again back watching, you know, some special announcement in the Attitude Era, you know, the first time they announced a Hell in a Cell or something like that, you know. It took the idea, you know, because we'd been there before, hadn't we, as great as they both are with the 2 out of 3 falls match. And I found it a little bit of a weird dynamic as well, that the seemed to say, and the announcers seemed to allude to the fact that, you know, Adam Cole had the advantage in a wrestling match when he's in there with Johnny wrestling. You know, I thought that was a little strange, but, you know, because you would have thought that the street fight would have, you know, favoured Adam Cole, because obviously he's more likely to, you know, shortcut, and we saw that come in even in the first fall, which I'm sure we'll get to as well. But, you know, so you take a stipulation that they've been there before, but yet again NXT manages to, you know, you didn't even think of that level that they could reach, and they managed to up the excitement. And even before we got to the second fall and the third fall, you had fans, as they had throughout the night, shouting, "This is awesome," and "Mamma Mia," and all of that. So
yeah,
it speaks to just how utterly fantastic, you know, you talk about short title reigns, and whether it's for Johnny Gargano or Adam Cole, but the characters are built so well and they're able to connect with fans so well that people are invested in them, win, lose, or draw. So it was fantastic, and I'm sure we'll get just how utterly amazing that this hour match, which again seemed to fly by in half the time, was.
Definitely. Well, the first fall of the 3 was Adam Cole's stipulation, which was a classic wrestling match. So Gargano takes the match to the outside with a clothesline over the top rope and a wrecking ball dropkick, sending Cole to the floor. Gargano drives Cole's knee into the edge of the ring, going to work on Cole's right leg, essentially. Cole then gets some retribution with a wheelbarrow suplex on Gargano, again on the edge of the ring. So they're utilising the ring apron, especially with Gargano now selling his neck. So they've both got individual injuries here going through the match. Gargano then gets a close near fall from a fisherman driver. Gargano adds further punishment to Cole with a double foot stomp to the right knee. Cole then gets a close near fall with a bridging wheelbarrow suplex. Gargano gets a 2 count from a sunset driver, and then Cole very nearly gets the first pinfall of the match with a Michinoku driver. And already this match is a pretty fast and exciting pace, and we've not even had the first pinfall yet. Gargano gets another close near fall from a slingshot DDT, and then there's a close near fall, this time from Cole after his trademark Ushi-Goroshi. Cole then brings a chair into the ring and delivers a low blow to Johnny Gargano, but only gets a 2 count. But after Cole threatens to use the chair, it's Gargano who actually uses the chair on Adam Cole to get disqualified, giving the advantage and the first fall to Adam Cole. So, however, with a smile on his face, Gargano continues to beat down onto the champion using a steel chair, knowing that this is his stipulation next, a street fight. and with the chair in hand, Gargano continues to beat down on the champion Adam Cole. So, David, before we go into detail about fall number 2, what were your thoughts on the first fall?
I absolutely love the mechanics of remembering, especially on Cole's part, remembering the selling of the injuries and particularly to his knee and his leg area. This is something else yet again that we can add to the list of things that set NXT apart from the main roster. It's one of my pet hates is that people will sustain injuries and then when it's comeback time, completely forget about that injury, and it's
Yeah.
make of throughout the industry. But I don't want to even stay on such a negative thing when this was such a positive experience. These two are absolutely fantastic. I mean, for me, it's like a work rate version of Triple H versus The Rock or some classic feud or something like that. This should be a match and a feud and a whole thing that people look back on in years to come and say, weren't those fantastic matches? Weren't those fantastic and often underappreciated wrestlers? I mean, we did see a dynamic also with the crowd of when Johnny first came in, that the crowd were way more for, I would say, 75-25 for Adam Cole. Obviously,
Yeah.
you've got that bandwagon of the champion and the Undisputed Era are much kind of cooler, unless you're the comic freak or whatever. But, fantastic wrestlers, fantastic action. I think the first fall must have went about a good 25 minutes or something like that. And that's a great thing, and it speaks to their wrestling ability as well as you weren't begging for that next fall. Obviously, you wanted to see these next sections of the match, but it was so well executed and so well done, and so much back and forth, and I couldn't count in the match how many times in total they ended up super kicking each other, but it was unreal. I'm sure you have the details there somewhere.
Yeah.
I said this on Facebook, and I'm sure you'll agree. People like that, some people will talk about how they'll tire of a feud or a series of matches or a character when they've seen them a few times and stuff. But that's again an epidemic of the way wrestling is in the fast-paced industry and whatnot. But I could watch these guys forever. I could watch a compilation of their matches for hours on end and not get fed up because they always diversify and add something extra. So yeah, a fantastic first fall, and it just went on from there, didn't it?
Definitely. So with the second fall underway, it goes immediately to the outside and around the fans in the crowd. Gargano even has time to take a selfie using a fan's phone. Gargano hits a dive, driving both himself and Adam Cole through the barriers at ringside. Cole then goes for a double underhook suplex with both wrestlers on the announce table, but Gargano is able to reverse the move into a backdrop, sending Cole through the Spanish announce table behind him. Gargano pulls 2 tables from underneath the ring, pushes them into the ring. However, Cole is quick to react, and with a shining wizard and a suplex onto a chair that he set up in the ring. Gargano then drives Cole through a chair set up between the turnbuckles with like a lawn dart before applying the Gargano escape, causing Cole to tap out and level up the match at 1 fall apiece. So your thoughts on this street fight? Like I say, it didn't go as long as the first fall, but it certainly was eventful. Their brawl through the crowd, the spot going through the barriers, the table spot, and then the utilization of the chair back in the ring. I think it was memorable once again for all the right reasons. What were your thoughts on this second fall, the street fight, David?
It's funny, and it made sense as well when you think about it because of the length that they went with the first fall and the injuries sustained to Adam Cole, particularly with the chair and also with his leg. That second fall wouldn't go a long time because Gargano obviously had a clear advantage with the chair shots and all the abuse he was giving him after that as well with the table and throughout the crowd and everything like that. But it was kind of, again, a bit of, I'm just thinking about it now, a kind of a weird dynamic in the fact that they kind of had Johnny as the heel a little bit, and it was almost making you feel a little sympathetic towards Adam Cole. And I'm just wondering, looking at the bigger picture, like going ahead, if maybe this means that, should we, unfortunately it's going to happen at some time, get a split of the Undisputed Era, or Adam Cole becomes more of a sympathetic character. This is kind of testing the waters for that, and maybe if we saw him in like a Roderick Strong or something, with Roderick being the heel and him being the more face character, maybe that was testing the waters for that and seeing how the crowd reacted to that. And I definitely think it would probably work, even though Cole works better for me as the cocky bad guy, but I'm sure he'd be able to carry it off the way NXT executes things as a more face character. But again, it made sense in the mechanics of the match that it was a short fall but a physical fall, and a great way to tie up the scores and have we're begging for that final, deciding fall.
Definitely. So then the cage full of weapons gets lowered for the third and final fall. You can see barbed wire attached to the top of the cage. There's chairs, there's ladders, handcuffs, kendo sticks, and remember you still have the two tables that Gargano placed inside the ring earlier on. Both men go at it with stiff kendo stick shots before flooring each other with double super kicks. Gargano connects with a reverse Rana before nailing Cole with another super kick for a close near fall. Cole sets up two chairs, which Gargano uses to tornado DDT Cole onto, with Cole's head connecting with the top edge of one of the chairs on the way down, and that looked painful. Cole then delivers a Panama Sunrise onto Gargano for a 2 count. But now there are tables, ladders, chairs, and even a sledgehammer inside the ring, as well as a multitude of other weapons waiting to be utilised. Cole hits a second Panama Sunrise, this time leaping from a ladder to hit the move, with Gargano kicking out once again after 2. We then see Gargano hit an Avalanche Canadian Destroyer for another close near fall. Gargano then empties a bag of goodies. Now, when I first saw the bag, I thought there were thumbtacks in there, but there was everything, including some wire cutters, some wire clippers that he uses to cut down some barbed wire from the top of the cage. Cole notices and tries to escape out of the cage, wanting to avoid the barbed wire at every cost. However, he only gets as far as a platform, which is placed on the top corner of the cage. Then on the 46-minute mark, in a move that will be replayed and remembered and played on the WWE Network, no doubt, for years to come, Cole and Gargano come crashing down from this platform through the two tables that are set up side by side underneath. Cole somehow is able to place his arm over Johnny Gargano for the cover and gets the final fall for the pinfall victory, after both men fell what must have been easy 20 feet from the top of the cage. And oh, wow, what a match. I mean, what a last fall. And somehow they were able to top what they've done before in their earlier and previous encounters. Both Gargano and Cole were covered in cuts and bruises and welts. But I think that we've seen a match that could be talked about for many years to come. David, I'm going to hand over to you. That last fall was pretty special and topped off what was already a fantastic match. Give us your kind of 2 cents worth on that final fall, David.
Well, it definitely should be remembered, shouldn't it? Because, I mean, the sheer work rate that went into that match. And again, going back to the first fall, you had this build up to the fact that they know each other so well. They had a series of moves early in the match where they knew each other's moveset so well that they couldn't go for the Panama Sunrise or the super kicks because they were able to counter it straight away. They knew that the other was going to be ready for it. So in this last part of the match, it was like a war of attrition, and you basically had to try and think of innovative new ways while being completely worn out from 45 minutes of devastation to try and put the other guy away, and that's what you saw, and it was kind of weird because, as you said, you expected those thumbtacks to be coming out, and then you got wire cutters, and I think there was some brass knucks lying on the ground. Yeah. Utilized, but I like the little dynamics of you saw like Cole up on the ladder and he's kind of second guessing should I jump up here, and maybe a Panama Sunrise, and you could almost see Johnny waiting to do a super kick, and I think what was really great as well, and it speaks to the camera work in this match, is that the tease, that platform, you saw the ladders and you saw everything, and you could just see that platform in the corner, and you're thinking, how is that going to come into? I don't know, for people who've seen like Ring of Honor scramble cage matches, they'll have 4 little platforms on the corner, and you'll often see superplexes off there and stuff. But that final spot, which was replayed over and over, and it deserved to be in this case, it wasn't hyperbole or anything like that. They came flying off sideways. Now, anybody who's a wrestler who has any sense of body mechanics or anything like that knows that is not a good way to come off. Backwards is bad enough when you can back bump onto something and take that fall, but coming sideways where you're exposing all your side and everything else, and you saw the results that Adam Cole had like welts on his lower back and upper back, and I think he even had splinters all over his back. But I thought what was really fantastic as well is the way they sold that finish and sold that pinfall, where Cole is basically just dead weight on top of Johnny Gargano, and Gargano is out, and when Cole gets dragged away by the other members of the Undisputed Era, that Johnny's not moving a muscle. You know, you'll often see wrestlers moving around or opening their eyes or whatever after supposed knockouts or whatever, but he stayed there for at least a good 5 minutes or so until after, you know, poor Cole was carted away, and I think he took the lion's share of the abuse, not that there was, like, you know, a little to go around, but absolutely fantastic match that you could approach from every angle, and we could talk about till the cows come home from every angle and, you know, fill 3 podcasts with it. But, you know, if anybody who hasn't seen that match already needs to go back and watch it, and then watch it a second time and see, you know, how a match is telling a story and put together in a different way from the Shayna Baszler that you said, which was a really good match in a storytelling of injuries and can you survive this kind of thing. But this told a different story of, you know, in 3 different little chapters, and absolutely fantastic. Can't say enough about it.
So if I were to put you on the spot and say, kind of, where would you rank this match amongst, you know, all the excellent NXT matches we've had over the years? I mean, you think of some of the classic NXT matches, or certainly the classic Takeover matches. You've had Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate. You've had Johnny Gargano versus Andrade. You've had the series of matches between Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and Johnny Gargano again, his series of matches with Adam Cole. And, you know, so many. There's a 6-man ladder match from New Orleans. They all stand out as being fantastic matches that you'll remember to the day you die from NXT. But this one was different once again. It's difficult to compare, you know, match to match, but you know, do you think we've seen, you know, once again the best match in NXT history, or certainly one of the best matches?
I would certainly say it's so far. I would definitely put an asterisk next to that and say so far, because you know, with this roster and you know with Triple H, they're going to say, we did good there, let's do better next time.
Yeah.
This was, it's hard to pigeonhole it into just how it compares to it, because you immediately think of like War Games or something like that when you look at that last part, because obviously Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era were a big part of that and won that, as far as I remember. You know, and again, I immediately thought, as you did, of Andrade and Johnny Gargano, because that was a fantastic match, and everybody had not low expectations, but they didn't really know where these wrestlers were coming from, or if they were gel, and they absolutely, you know, blew away all expectation. So it's really hard to put it next to another match. I would definitely say it's in the top. I mean, you've got a lot of a whole catalogue of fantastic matches with NXT and even NXT UK. So I'd definitely say top 10. I'd even put it into the top 5 of matches, right up there with the Andrade matches and things like that, and some of Pete Dunne's matches, because how quickly people forget, you know, that Pete Dunne never had a bad match. Had absolutely fantastic matches, and, you know, week in, week out, you know, month in, month out. But yeah, top 5 definitely for me. And it's, you know, I don't want to say, can you top this, because I know Takeover and NXT can, you know, and I just can't wait for more.
Definitely. So, I mean, if you look at the card as a whole, you know, we had a great opener between the Street Profits and the Undisputed Era. We saw a star-making performance from Candice LeRae and Io Shirai in match number 2. Then we had an excellent triple threat match, which was possibly the second best match of the night between Dunn, Velveteen Dream, and Roderick Strong for the North American Championship. A really well-worked women's championship match between Shayna and Mia Yim, with both wrestlers selling their asses off, you know, in an excellent, more of a psychological submission style match, really, you could say. And then that main event, which we can't kind of speak up enough, to be honest with you. It's 46 minutes of just, you know, wrestling awesomeness, basically, dishing out so many punishments on one another. What's your kind of takeaway memories from this Takeover Toronto then, David? What's kind of 1 or 2 highlights that you kind of will live with you for quite a while?
Well, definitely the triple threat. I mean, as a whole, you know, you're going to remember, and I hate it when people like forget so quickly how, you know, how great these matches are, and if you go back and you relive them, and, you know, people will see a match this week and they'll forget how great Andrade and Johnny Gargano was. You know, don't disrespect wrestling. You know, if somebody says, oh, that was a great match, and you've seen one on the G1 or AEW or anywhere else, then go back and objectively watch them. It's only win-win. You're going to get to see 2 fantastic matches, and, you know, it's so obviously, you know, the free falls match is going to stand out straight away, and it should be a match that people go back and talk about, and, you know, relive, and just we all talk about on social media and what have you, because it deserves it, and the work rate deserves it of a whole of that entire roster. you haven't got a bad match on the card as usual from this 5-match format. It's absolutely fantastic, So I'd say to people who haven't watched, then watch, and if you've watched, go back and watch again, because these people deserve it, and they deserve, this platform. The main roster is, a lot of people are at the moment, like, Raw isn't where it used to be, and this, that, and the other. We're in a rebuilding stage now. We have AEW on the scene, and we have, other promotions like MLW at a lesser extent, and others coming along. There's a smorgasbord of things for people to enjoy and things like that. But if you want to do these people justice, and if you want to give them the respect they deserve, then give them a chance. And NXT is the flagship as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure you'll agree for WWE at the moment. If you're tired of Raw and if you're tired of SmackDown, NXT's the place to be.
Yeah, it still surprises me and it staggers me every single day. You hear people talk online, Facebook groups where they haven't given NXT a chance yet, and it's been around for 5 or 6 years now. And but just changing the subject ever so slightly, sticking with NXT, however, and you've probably seen over the last week or so on social media, and certainly on your Turning Heel page and my Wrestling with John's Facebook page, the news that NXT will likely move to FS1 in October. So obviously Fox are taking on SmackDown every Friday night from October. And obviously you've got AEW starting their weekly show Wednesday Night Dynamite on TNT in a live 2-hour format every Wednesday. But FS1 is kind of like their sports channel, Fox's sports channel, essentially, and it's quite a flagship channel within the kind of Fox's kind of umbrella of channels. And it's likely that NXT will be moving to FS1 for a live 2-hour show, much in the same way that AEW will be running Wednesday Night Dynamite. So there's a few changes there. Firstly, it could possibly be departing from the WWE network, which would be a massive shame if that happens. It would be going from a 1-hour taped show to a 2-hour live show every single week. So kind of what's your thoughts on the proposed format changes, with it going from recorded to live and 2 hours every week? What was your kind of thoughts on that, just on the surface of things, David?
Well, I don't know the financials of what Fox is, paying for this, but I know that they've, got a commitment to making sure this is a very sports orientated, product that they're going to provide. None of the gaga that you've often had in the past with WWE product and characters and stuff. They want a reality base to it, and NXT, that's certainly its strength. It's a wrestle-centric product, and there's realistic characters. Even the more flamboyant characters like a Velveteen Dream or somebody like that are based in a real person and a realistic character. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. Obviously, my only concern is, it's twofold. One, the 2 hours might take away, as I said, the specialness, if you will, of NXT. The fact that it's very digestible at an hour. Leaving the network could be another problem, because that's all, it's always one of the top 10 shows on the network of viewership wise. It'll give more viewers, obviously, if it's going to Fox. But the 2 hours does concern me, because you might be spreading them. And there's enough roster there. Obviously, there's tons of wrestlers in the Performance Center that we're yet to even see. There's tryouts happening all over the place, just most recently in Canada and places like that. But I just hope that Vince McMahon can keep his paws off the product and just take a standoffish and maybe a just overseeing kind of point of view, and just leave it to Triple. If it's the old adage, isn't it? If it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. NXT works is the product it is. If it can get out to a bigger audience, fantastic. Now, I know a lot of people, for the next thing I'm going to say, are going to roll their eyes, and that's simply the fact that they say that this is a deliberate policy by WWE to run on a Wednesday because, AEW. Now, maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. The way I see it is that Fox wants them on this day. They've always been on that day anyway, and that's the way it's going to be. Whether this is to counteract AEW or whatever. And it'll be interesting to see how AEW goes and handles this as well, because obviously they've got a lot of very capable wrestlers there. But will they go to a more sports entertainment to, deliberately counter this? Because, they've got the characters there, the MVFs and the likes of them, the Jimmy Havocs and people like that for a more, extreme style. So maybe they'll mix that whole thing. We'll see. it's definitely the one thing that positive that we can see out of this is it's a win situation for every wrestling fan, because we now have more choice and a realistic chance of seeing two major products going head to head and battling to put the best product out there.
I mean, I've got two hopes really if this does come to fruition. And number one is that if it goes to 2 hours, which is what's been reported, as we've discussed, it might be an opportunity for more of the NXT roster to get a little bit of TV time, because you do see quite a few of the same faces week in, week out, and quite often on the takeovers as well. And it'd be nice to see some fresh faces. I mean, for example, Keith Lee, he's been with the NXT roster WWE for over a year now, and we haven't seen him on a single takeover. So it'd be great to see, other people get in the mix, and that extra hour might give them the opportunity. And obviously, you've got the NXT Breakout tournament that's been absolutely fantastic over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and you're thinking, well, where within the hour are you going to find time to fit all this wonderful talent in? I know that when they tape at the moment, they tape 4 or 5 hour, tapings, or 4 or 5 weeks worth of footage for their weekly TV. But maybe having that extra hour will give a bigger platform to more wrestlers. But my second hope, as you said, is hopefully, although it's going to be on a bigger platform, possibly with more eyeballs on the product, we hope that Vince McMahon doesn't dabble too much or at all. And I think that hopefully, and in my heart of hearts, I hope that Triple H has kind of left, and his team within NXT continue doing what they've been doing so successfully over the years. And I kind of think that's possibly why Triple H wasn't given one of the executive director roles for either SmackDown or Raw, because they knew that this was going to happen and they were going to trust him and continue to trust him with the NXT product. But to echo your sentiments, I think there are some pros there are some cons there, but I think whatever happens, I hope that the product doesn't suffer, and I hope that the fans that watch it religiously week in, week out, like myself and you, David, don't suffer either. That pretty much brings us to the end of this episode, this NXT Takeover Toronto review. David, thank you so much once again for helping us out with this edition of Wrestling with Johners. Before we go, I just want to kind of ask you to give your social media pages a bit of a plug. I know that you've got a very popular Turning Heel Facebook group. Tell us a bit about that, and how can my wrestlers get in touch with you or find out about Turning Heel?
Well, Turning Heel obviously is where you go when you want to discuss maybe it's not that we're a negative group or anything like that. We're constructive criticism, I think, is the best way to describe it and stuff like that. And we try and cover. I mean, obviously, with myself, I'm very NXT, WWE, and have me other little ones around like Revolution Pro Wrestling and Progress and so on. And we try and suit all tastes, whether it's New Japan or MLW, and we'll discuss all that. And we like to have a little bit of fun on there. There's a little bit of more mature language and things like that. Aside from that, I do run a Tony Storm page. It's mostly just photographs from our matches and model shoots or whatever. So for anybody that's a big fan of Tony Storm, get yourself on there. It's Tony Storm Unleashed. And then you might find us on the odd time on a very nice little page. Well, it's not such a little page now because you're coming up, called Wrestling with Johners. And I think there's a really attractive model on there that sells some very nice T-shirts that are available right now. So,
yeah. He's a handsome looking fella, isn't he? Eh? But I've been told that you can get 10% off of Wrestling with Johners merchandise up until the end of the month. And the links, of course, are on the Facebook page. But enough about me and my modelling days. But that is the end of this episode. Thank you so much, David, for coming on and helping us out. And I'm sure you don't mind coming on to review what was an absolutely fantastic and very, very enjoyable takeover, as they always tend to be. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and shout about this podcast. Tell your friends and tell your family. Like I was saying, keep listening to the Wrestling with Johners podcast for all of your weekly NXT UK, NXT, WWE, and all-round wrestling goodness. Without you sharing and subscribing, this podcast can't continue to grow. So hit that like, share, and subscribe button now, people. Please don't forget to hit us up on Twitter @withjohners_pod. On Instagram, we're there at Wrestling with Johners, and on Facebook, just search for Wrestling with Johners. Don't forget to check out our range of t-shirts, as I've said, at teespring.com. And we'll be back on Tuesday evening for our SummerSlam review, where I'll be joined by Heather and Half Decent. But in the meantime, from myself and from David, thank you very much. Take care and speak to you all again soon.